Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a quick video, or more accurately, remake a video. The original was on this channel for about a week or two, and I decided to re-record it because I was originally using this piece of shit lapel microphone, and it's just, no. Uh, it doesn't record my voice accurately, and whenever I have to listen to the recording played back as I'm editing the video, it just pisses me off. So for some reason that thing always records my voice at a couple of higher decibels. But anyway, I wanted to make this video mostly for beginners, because if you are new to this, I presume you maybe just be looking up a video, which may have been what led you here, where you want to know the proper method and storage tips and what have you for the gel balls. And I also want to do this for some people that would be considered at a more advanced level, just because I feel like there's maybe some more effective ways that they could be doing things. So, without trying to sound like I'm a know-it-all, because I'm still learning as I go with this. Now, alright, here's what I wanted to mention first. And keep in mind, this video is like 80% aimed at beginners, so if you already know this stuff, I apologize. But not really. Anyway, so here's what I wanted to mention. I first just want to talk about the types of gel balls you can get, predominantly, at least when it comes to the strength of them. I'm not going to talk about like the glow-in-the-dark ones or the gel tracers and all that shit. Just basically it'll be narrowed down to about 3. So you've got your, I'll start with the stronger ones. What you'll have is something like this that'll either be labeled as super hard, otherwise known as ultra hard, and these are the better ones to go with. If you have a gas-powered pistol, regardless of if it's running on CO2 gas or green gas, these are the better ones to go with, because anything less than this tends to explode in the barrel. Not to the extent where it would cause a jam like a squib load in a real firearm. It just basically shatters out into little pieces and it doesn't actually hit the target because there's no solid object traveling out of it at this point. So that's for that. Now, if you plan on using this kind of like a sport, or in a sport-oriented manner, such as at a gel blaster range where you've got your little matches and stuff like that with your buddies. Some of those places, at least the one I go to, doesn't allow ultra hards because, again, depending on the size of the field, if it's predominantly close quarters, they may forbid that stuff just to prevent injury, because ultra hards at super close range can tear the skin and cause bleeding, something that I suppose these people are just trying to avoid for, particular legal reasons, among other things. So, we've got these ones, we've got below that hardened ones, which are not bad, but there's a couple of other tips and tricks with these to make them a little bit more effective, which I'll get to in a moment. And the other one, which I don't have a packet of to show you, was the one that's below this, where they're just the standard, softer kind of ones, and I don't have those because my mother didn't raise a bitch. Now, when it comes to the storage of these, they'll pretty much all be stored the same way. And, alright, here's what's up. A lot of people, including people who consider themselves to be not new to this, don't always store these in the best of things. Here's what I'm going to say. I don't really care at the end of the day what it is you're storing them in, just as long as it's actually airtight and seal-proof. And what I mean by that is this. Regardless of what it is that you're storing them in, whether it's a container or a soft drink bottle like what I use. If you're watching this outside of America, soft drink is what we Australians call soda. You need to make sure that if you were to fill up with water, turn it around like this, if at least one drop of water seeps out, then it is not actually seal proof. And I see a whole bunch of these people that just put them in fucking cereal boxes or these not 100% seal proof containers, and that's an issue for this reason, because you can't keep them outside of a fridge, which is actually seal tight. And they'll always say, oh, but I keep them in this container for however long and they're fine. Yeah, it's because you keep them in the fridge. That's the thing that's actually keeping them airtight. I keep mine in the cupboard in my room because this is actually airtight. So when it comes to storing these things, just make sure that's in something airtight. And now that we know how to properly test that, we can move on from this. After that, here's the other thing that I would recommend doing. So when it comes to the storage time, pretty much all these packets in the back state to soak these for a minimum of 4 hours. And if you have the ultra hards, not a problem. Soak them for 4 hours. Do what you got to do after that. More on that in a moment. When it comes to the hardened ones, I'm not going to talk about the soft ones. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't exist. But when it comes to these hardened ones, I personally take mine out after 3 hours because I undergrow them. There's some other people as well that'll take them out after 2 hours because they want them to be that littlest bit stronger. And it's still permitted to take these onto the range even though you've undergrown them, because the only requirement is that they still have to be these particular gels. They don't allow super hards or ultra hards at the gel blaster range I go to, so they will allow a hardened or anything less than this. So for people that are soaking these and want to undergrow them, like I said, 2 hours would be the minimum amount of time that I would recommend. Anywhere between 2 and 3 hours. And even at 2 hours, I know I'm getting a bit of a glare back on the camera from this, but they will still wind up this exact same size, which is the size they need to be. These particular gel balls are designed to expand to a size no more or less than between 7 and 8 millimeters. Now, speaking of exact measurements, what I prefer to do is just keep mine in a standard 2-liter soft drink bottle. If you also want to use the 1.25 liter ones, that's also fine. I'll give you the exact measurement of what to do with these. And hells yeah, I've got the vanilla Coca-Cola, because vanilla Coke is the shit. Now, what you need to do is first off measure these in tablespoons. And what I mean by that is using a measuring tablespoon, okay? Something like this, or a measuring cup like this. Don't use a standard cereal spoon, you're not going to be able to get the precise measurements. But if you want to make sure that once you add the water, that the gel balls that you put in there are going to come up to about here on these 1.25 liter bottles, add exactly 2 tablespoons, okay? Tablespoon, not teaspoon, tablespoon. And it'll bring it exactly to here. Now, here's what you need to do. Or at least this is how I do it in a way that I find effective. So normally I just use this, fill it up all the way to the top, because that is exactly 2 tablespoons. Then I'll generally just use a funnel like this. Stick that in the top of the empty container. Pour all of the little, at this point they're essentially beads, so pour those in. And then fill it up to about here. Don't worry about this whole thing where people are like, oh, but if it's there, it's too close to the top, and once those balls expand in size, it's going to push the water over and it's going to leak everywhere. No, that only happens if you add too many balls into this. Because keep in mind, if you add exactly 2 tablespoons, it's going to expand and rise to only here. And the water's not going to overflow because the balls are soaking the water that's in there. So, like I said, it'll only overflow if you've added too many of those, the balls. So, add exactly 2 tablespoons, then won't be a problem. When it comes to the 2-liter bottles, this one here is the result of exactly 3 tablespoons, which ends up to there. So I suppose if you were to add 3 tablespoons and then 1 teaspoon, it might end up to here, but personally I just prefer using 3 tablespoons, and, well, this is exactly where it ends up. So once you then add the exact measurements in, then fill up with the water, and once they've been soaking, like I said, for about 2 or 3 hours, what I'll do then is I'll use something like this, a flour sifter. Pretty much be anything that you want to, even if it's like a pasta strainer, whatever, just as long as the holes or openings that are in this isn't larger than the balls, because you don't want them to fall out. So, taking the lid off, you're going to have to use your imagination, okay? Hollywood doesn't have an imagination anymore, but you do. So, drain as much of the water as you can. Typically, I just kind of like to leave mine in the sink, balancing in such a way where it's, not exactly straight, but at least, at an angle where everything's going to drain directly out of it. Then after that, what I want to do is actually take a little bit more water out. So you can just use a paper towel or a regular, hand towel like this. So what I do is I just hold it above the, below it, turn it upside down, trying to absorb a little bit more water, because you kind of need something to sort of like absorb it and get that, momentum of absorbentness going through. Words, not my strong suit apparently. Then typically just after an area is kind of, saturated, I'll just move it around and then just do that continuously to the dry areas where it's done soaking up most of it. And then it's fine. I don't really need to do anything else with it. A lot of other people make this mistake where they like to have a little bit of water in it so that it's still apparently got more moisture and stuff in it. I've personally, in the months that I've been doing this, never had to deal with that ever. Although I do feel like the people that do that are using things that aren't seal proof, so it kind of makes sense. But if you are using something that is properly airtight and doesn't leak at all, then it's not necessary. The other reason why I don't like adding water into it is because when people need to pour this into their magazines, water gets in there and starts dripping out, and it's just not good for the wiring of the motors that are in these magazines. So not something that I would think is a good idea. Even if you're pouring it into a speed loader, one, also, I don't recommend leaving it in these because these are also not airtight. But like I said, when they pour it into this, because they like to have this little nipple-looking thing, and then, you know, when you add this, it then becomes a burlesque nipple covered up with some modesty. Haha. Anyway, the point is that if you do prefer loading things with this, that's fine. Just make sure that most of the water is out of this before you pour it into this. Otherwise, water gets in this, you pour it into the magazine, water gets in the magazine. It's an issue. I just think it's a good idea to try to avoid that at all cost. I don't even really use this thing anymore. I just kind of have it because it's, you know, I got it back in the day and it's there. But now I've found methods where I can just use a standard soda bottle. I don't recommend using the juice bottles that have a lid opening size of roughly that. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Because for the most part, the way that these magazines work, they generally have one of two same size little openings. They'll either be something like this. This is a SEMA magazine. You can get some Gen 8 magazines where the opening is there. Doesn't really matter where it is. Essentially, the opening is going to be roughly the same size, which is just slightly either the same width or just a little bit smaller than the width of this opening. So, the other kind you can get, typically I mostly, if only ever see this on certain kinds of drum mags like this one, which I've done another video of. Haha, you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But this is pretty much, I don't want to take the lid off this, just for the record. So you're just going to have to take my word for this, or buy one of these and test it out for yourself. But I can pretty much fit this over this. It's the exact same width, and then just pour them in directly. So it's not an issue. So that's kind of the easy part there. Just make sure you don't accidentally, like, you know, skid it off to the side and, you know, fuck it up. Balls will go everywhere, okay? It'll be like just an orgy on a porn set. So when it comes to this, though, typically what I like to do, and again, it doesn't really matter if the opening's there or on the side here, but what I just prefer to do is find a way where I can put my thumb and my fingers across like this. If you just imagine, because like I said, you're not Hollywood, use your imagination. If the lid was off this, I'll just hold it like that and then just hold it up. So this way, no balls should fall out from the side. I've kind of like got a wall, which I'm making with my digits to block it up on the side. So that's just my preferred method. I don't really use speed loaders anymore, at least when it comes to loading the rifle magazines. You know, I've been sitting here for about a minute thinking to myself, surely there was something else I had to mention, but I also wrote down this little checklist that I've got in front of me, and I think it looks like I've covered every single topic that I wanted to mention, so fuck it. I'm just going to end the video prematurely with no real outro of any kind, so thanks for watching, guys. See you later.